Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Reporter's Notebook. For those of you who have never watched Reporter's Notebook before, it's a really cool chance we get sort of towards the end of our days to sit down with some of the reporters who work here at WNCT and even some of the people who work in the newsroom behind the scenes here as well, and kind of give you a look at what goes on behind the scenes at a newsroom and just dive a little deeper into those stories that we cover for you guys each and every day. So today we are joined by a face you might recognize from another episode. We are joined here by Matt Campbell. Hello, hello.
Hi there. How you doing?
He is joining us in the studio today, and Matt Campbell is our executive producer, the head honcho. So he is the one who edits our scripts, who gets everything ready to go for all the broadcast shows. He's in control of all the producers, so we go to him to get all of our stuff approved and ready to go for our shows that we put on for you guys. So, Matt, how long have you been in this business, been in this industry?
What I tell you guys is that I've been here since the invention of dirt. But really, this is, I think we're now 26 years in now.
Wow, okay.
More than 26 years in the business.
So what got you started into news?
I was the fifth caller. They just said, I just told
Congratulations.
them. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. No, what it was, I was interested in this business because of the explosion of the Space Shuttle Challenger back in 1986. Up to that point, I kind of, thought, hey, I could be an astronaut. And of course, looking at me now, it'd be more likely for astronauts to land on me based on my gravity. But I just, that day when that happened, I saw the coverage that was going on, and I watched, the Dan Rather and Tom Brokaw and Peter Jennings, and I watched all the coverage that they put into that event, and it just really intrigued me, all the work that went into it. And at the time, I had hair, so I thought maybe I could be an anchor. The hair started leaving, and that's when I realized I could be a producer.
Gotcha. So you started off producing right away when you got into the industry, or did you start off, dabbling in other things as well?
I started off as an associate producer on a weekend morning show.
Okay.
And that was while I was still in college. And it was just a part-time freelance job. And I worked there for the better part of 6-7 months. And as I was approaching not only the end of that position, but also my graduation from college, the news director said, you can move someplace else to a much smaller town and you can make about $3 an hour as a reporter, or we can pay you a good amount of money for somebody coming straight out of college and be a producer. And of course, I went with the money.
Cha-ching, there you go.
Yes.
Yep. Awesome. So how long have you been in North Carolina? I know that, you are newer to WNCT. You've been here for about a year, a little less than a year.
I started back in January. I moved here right after the first of the year and started here at the station in January. And, what better way to welcome me to North Carolina than a global pandemic?
Right. So where were you before North Carolina? Where did you call home before heading over here?
Well, it's kind of a vagabond existence. I started off I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee, so speak slowly. But from there, I went to Louisville, Kentucky, Las Vegas, Nevada, spent 14 years in Grand Rapids. I spent the better part of a year in Kansas City, and now I'm here.
Wow. And that is one of the amazing things that I don't think a lot of viewers realize is this industry is very fast paced. People are in and out of stations and markets all the time. As reporters, we have 2-year contracts normally. So, once you're finished with your 2-year contract, you're supposed to move, to another station. So is it similar for, executive producers or producers in general?
Well, one thing that they say, and I'm waiting for this to be proven out, is that they say that this is a good business for people who want to be a producer because there's always a demand for people in those jobs. It's not exactly the easiest job to get because, of course, we don't all look like Emily, and and have all the talents that Emily has that make us very marketable. But when you look like me, it's but I get I've worked on contracts. I've gone looking for either better pay or better living circumstances, or just a new challenge in my career. And
Sure.
so it's different influences, different factors.
Definitely. So tell us what your, day-to-day looks like as an executive producer. You wake up, you come into the station, how many times a week? What do your hours look like? And, how would you explain your workload to somebody, the amount of work that you do?
Well, it's overall, I kind of describe producing as we're like, if you've seen one of those old TV variety shows where you see the guy who's spinning plates on the end of a stick, that's what we're doing, because we have a bunch of different things up in the air all at once. And it's a matter of keeping those things up in the air and keeping everything spinning as best as possible.
Yes.
I come in, at a decent time. In the morning, we have a morning editorial meeting where we talk about the story ideas that reporters have, the story ideas that managers have, things that have been happening overnight or coming up in the day, and we talk about how we're going to cover those and assign people to those jobs. Throughout the day, I am in contact with reporters. I'm in contact with photographers. I'm in contact with the producers who are here at the station, and we're deciding where things are going to go, how we're going to present them. A lot of my job is looking over the scripts from people like you and other reporters. And I also go over the producers' scripts. I talk with members of production. I talk with people who are going to be helping out with live shots. I talk with other TV stations to find out if we can get content from them to put into our newscast, or if they need something from us. I'm arranging different events that we're going to be covering. And, whether it's a presidential rally or just a quick visit where somebody's handing over a check to someone, we want to make sure we get those things covered. And then we put it all together into those half-hour newscasts that you watch at 5, 5:30, 6, 10, 11, all of the different things. And I go over all the scripts, make sure we're all good. And I'm usually still going through scripts for the next show when one is on the air. So it's
Never
not
ends.
as much. It used to be with a producer. Once I did many of those things, I would then go into a control room, and my job was to make sure that all the live shots happened, that we started the show on time, and that we ended the show on time. Now I get to sit out here and critique other people for not doing that.
Definitely. Well, so what is advice if somebody came to you and said, I might be interested in pursuing production or producing or working in a newsroom in general? What is some advice that you would give to them on how to reach that goal, or how to, do something on their own time that can get them to that potential?
Be curious. Be curious. And I know that sounds vague, but it is. I mean, read what's happening in the news. When I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is I'm going and looking at different news stories that have popped off overnight. When I get home, I'm looking at different news stories that have happened, that are happening after I leave work and things like that, ideas for the next day. I watch newscasts, both here. I also watch newscasts in other cities. I watch the network stuff. I read. I love to read. History is a very big thing. Know the history. Know history. Know what's happened before we've been around. And that's very important, especially in a time of real political craziness as we're in now. It helps to know political history, what's happened before, and how this is unprecedented. So
Definitely.
So there's some things.
Yeah. And as my last question to you for this segment, on the other hand of that, researching news is part of our job, constantly being, informed and knowing what's happening, not only locally, but nationwide as part of our job every day. But, on the other hand of that, how do you go home and kind of tune it out, or do you ever tune it out?
Oh, yeah.
Because, you know, a lot of people, even when I'm out reporting, you know, I have people make comments, I can't watch the news. It's so negative. It's so hard to watch. And, you know, to some extent, I can understand where they're coming from. I agree. So is that something you've experienced where you have to turn it off, or how do you deal with that?
Well, it's a matter of you have to find a good balance even in the middle of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that you can attest, maybe even in a letter to HR, how I try to joke around in the newsroom all day.
Yes.
I do try to make people laugh, because
Yes.
I do believe that laughter is a good remedy to stress. And it gets the good endorphins going.
Definitely.
So I try to make people laugh. I try to make people happy during the day, most often at my own expense. I try to do that to make sure that we all know that, you know, I'm not exactly, you know, perfect. So, but at the same time, so I use laughter throughout the day. The tuning it out, it's not really tuning it out, it's just finding a balance. And then at some point, I stop looking at news at night.
Right.
And I will just start going through things on YouTube or Netflix, or watch a football game, or watch a sitcom or something. I will try to do that, or just read a book that's just kind of, you know, a novel. Nothing trashy, I'm not into that. No. But, you know, but I try to do something that just gets my mind off it. You know, watch baseball highlights from years back. Last night, I was looking at Barry Sanders and his 50 top highlights from his career in the NFL.
There you go.
Lord, I need a life. Okay.
Well, that's awesome. And I know I can say, you know, we're definitely grateful for the humor and the laughter, because I know personally for me, you know, you get very stressed throughout the day. So the Trump impressions are very helpful throughout the day.
I also do Biden impressions. I'm very bipartisan with that, okay?
Yes.
I'm not, it's not just one.
Yeah.
I do them all.
Yep. Okay. He does them all.
Yes.
He does all the impressions. Well, that's going to wrap up this segment of Reporter's Notebook. And Matt, thank you so much for taking the time out of your very busy schedule to join us for this episode. And guys, stay tuned for another one. We put them out multiple times a week, so you guys can see what we're doing here behind the scenes at WNCT. All right. Well, have a great rest of your night.